Hi, this is Bryan Tucker, presenting my 625 final presentation. This presentation is titled Teaching Math the Way Children Learn. Obviously to me, a big deal with teaching children math and really anything in school is the implementation of technology. And right now I'm presenting this through a medium over the web, actually using a camera that's built into my computer. I use an Apple computer. I use as much Apple as I can in my life. I think they're just head and shoulders above any other company as far as technology and computing and everything else. But where we're wanting to go with this presentation is obviously we want to look at the five CLEs, because I teach at the high school level, and we've gone away from map testing altogether. We've gone to what we call the CLEs, curriculum level expectations, instead of the grade level expectations. So now we use the end of course testing rather than the map, which I think's a good thing. I really enjoy the fact that we don't have to deal with map, and we're able to use the motivation of part of your grade in the class actually being tied to the grade that you get on your end of course exam. So I think that's a big benefit to the schools now, and they can control and have a little bit more power and motivation over the students. The first slide that we get into, I just put a couple of quotes on there from Albert Einstein. The first, pure mathematics is, in its way, the poetry of logical ideas. And the second one is, do not worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I assure you that mine are greater. I know we've all seen that poster. I think it's even hanging in my classroom. And I just think that's a great quote for the topic at hand. This entire presentation for me is probably going to come from a special education background, I guess you could say, because obviously with me teaching special ed, I feel that when I was putting this entire PowerPoint together, I'm thinking of, okay, how is this going to help my students? How would my students benefit? How would I teach my students? What I'm putting on the paper. And so all these GLEs or all these CLEs that I'm presenting and discussing, I'm thinking of, how can it help my specific students that I see on a daily basis, who struggle in math, who are in my lower level math class that I see on a daily basis. The next slide, some effective strategies: a visual and graphic depiction of problems, systematic and explicit instruction, student think alouds, peer-assisted learning activities, and formative assessment data. I know that the visual and graphic depiction of problems, we all learn differently, and I think that for me and for the students that I work with in my school, most of them are visual learners. They respond and they do much better after watching several instructions on the board. They take very explicit instruction. Especially the students that I have who have MR. It takes very explicit and it takes very repetitive instruction. They need to see it over and over and over and over again, the same way, day after day, for them to understand it. Those student think alouds, I think those are great. I always like to have a session or a time in my class where the students can ask questions, talk amongst themselves, talk to me, almost like a free 5 to 10 minutes. Now I only have a 50-minute class, so that's kind of difficult to do, but and maybe I'm not able to get to it every day, but I'm able to get to it at least once or twice or hopefully 3 times a week. And of course, your assessment data is typically tests. which, my thinking on that actually through the course of this class has actually changed. I'd always thought of tests, and when I gave them, they were always individual, with paper, and just going through this class, I was talking to my wife about it tonight. I think next year, or this coming year, I'm definitely going to do a lot more group tests and see how that goes. The 8 common characteristics of struggling math students. I got this out of our book, and the Learned Helplessness. That's been a big one in our class, and it seems like in this class we've talked about that several times. It seems like it's such a generational thing now. With this next generation coming up, that they just see it at home over and over and over again, and they come to school and they just give up very, very, very quickly and easily. They have no desire to really learn it, and so many people say it's all about the journey. I mean, you can say that in math, you can say that in school, you can say that about anything, but these kids don't have the desire to go through the journey. The very passive learning, memory difficulties, attention difficulties, with so many kids being labeled and diagnosed as ADD, and so many kids going on medications. It seems like the first sign of problems, we just put a pill in their mouth and it takes care of it. Low-level academic achievement and math anxiety. I know one week in here we talked about anxiety, and most of us, I remember reading several people had struggled and said that they did have a lot of math anxiety or anxiety period when it came to taking tests or speaking in public, or whatever difficult situations come up. A lot of people have anxiety about that, and that's no different for the students in my class. Just because they're in special ed doesn't mean that they get to not take the test. They still have to take the test. They still have to do most of the homework, even though we may adjust it accordingly. They still have to get it done. So, anxiety comes with that. Differentiated instruction is another topic that it takes with the students, and we've talked about that in here. Not just having kids learn one way, presenting them with several different ways to learn, and them hopefully learning one way. Now, I believe that if a student can solve a problem in a specific way, then they should only have to worry about doing it that one way. I don't think that a kid needs to be able to do it 7 different ways when he can get it done one way. There's just too many things in my special ed students to have to learn, being behind the 8 ball, that they don't need to be forced to learn a lot of different ways to get things done. The adjusting questions, that's something that I deal with, not necessarily on a daily basis, but at the beginning of the year, I certainly have a lot of teachers, and I work with a lot of teachers, and we get kids' assignments changed, whether they're doing only even problems, only odd problems, 1 out of every 3, or 10 per page, or whatever. We definitely adjust the questions. A lot of peer tutoring. That's become easier and easier with A+. A lot of kids need to get hours, so it's really a perfect situation, perfect system for the school that I'm in. Student interest surveys, and then buddy studies, and scaffolding. Scaffolding's something I use all the time. A perfect example for me is I will, introduce a new strategy or something new on the board, and I'll, do several examples myself, just me, and I'll slowly have the students come in and help, and, start small, just 1 step, having them do 1 step. Well, then they do 2 steps, then 3, then until they're solving the entire problem themselves. So, scaffolding's a very good way of a very good strategy of teaching, I think. Now we'll go into the first CLE that I see. The first one, understand and compare the properties of linear and non-linear functions. The difficulties that the students have, they lack an understanding of how to solve for X and Y, which goes back to simple, most times division. Division, addition, and subtraction. That's what solving for X and Y is. Lacks an understanding of how to solve simple computations. They probably don't know how to use a calculator very well either. They lack an understanding of how to properly use an advanced graphing calculator. So, the intervention that I said on the PowerPoint is, the one manipulative that I used was I call it the game, but it was a manipulative called Grapher, and I put a link in the PowerPoint so you can go see that. It's a perfect opportunity to use peer-assisted teaching or group activity that is specific, that is at a specific difficulty level, so that every member of the group must participate. That's such a big deal when you're doing group work, because so many times when you do group work in schools, it's one student doing all the work. Well, you want to make sure everyone gets involved. Adjusting questions is a great way to start. So, go on to our next CLE. Compare and order rational and irrational numbers, including finding their approximate locations on a number line. So many kids, especially in elementary, have a lot of trouble getting their numbers in order. They don't understand that 3 comes before 9. If you say 9, they don't even know how to write it. They've got to look on a number line and then count from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how they figure out what 9 is. So you can go into an intervention. Flexible groupings. You're going to put students on different levels together so that one student can assist the other. It's definitely going to take a lot of walking around and making sure that it's going on the way you want it to. Because so many times, once again, the students with the higher level ability will just take over and do everything. And that's not what you want at all. Direct instruction outside the classroom in a tutoring capacity. Obviously I do that a lot. I see a lot of kids after school or before school come in and ask questions, and I've got no problem with that. The third clue is use real numbers to solve various models. The difficulties, they don't have an understanding of the definition of a real number. They don't have the ability, or the cognitive ability to solve basic math, and they lack the ability to differentiate between different math problems. It's tough when they don't understand real numbers, and a lot of times it's a definition thing. They do usually know, but they just don't understand what a real number is. The interventions I put on there, putting a small number line on the front of their desk and so forth. Another one is use a variety of variations to demonstrate an understanding of a very small or very large numbers. So many students today have troubles writing numbers over 1 million or over 1 billion or even over 1,000 or 100. They don't understand where to put the commas. They don't understand the decimal point, so forth, and they can't quite. They really have to learn the place value of everything, especially decimals and whole numbers. Interventions are listed there. Another one is describe the effects of an operation such as multiplication, division, and computing powers and roots on the magnitude of quantities. It just takes very explicit instruction and a daily repetition to really get them to understand to understand multiplication and division. It takes a lot of work. It takes diligence, and it takes a lot of patience. But in review of this, what we've talked about, use direct and explicit instructions, use differentiating instructions, have students participate in groups, even for tests, allow peer teaching and tutoring, and use technology whenever possible. I'm using a great piece of technology right now for this class. I think technology is the one thing we've got going for us, and students in special education can use the technology that they have, including calculators, to solve everyday math problems. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, just email me. Thanks.